Barb with Inspire Me 360, and I am on holidays, so these videos are going to be a little bit shorter. But I wanted to talk a little bit about how to become the best friend or spouse or, anything to do with interpersonal relationships, and some of these tips and tricks about how you can affect the dynamic of your interactions in a positive manner is not to weaponize things that other people share with you. And this is extremely important when building trust. So a lot of things, or a lot of times, what couples will do, or people that are in a relationship or friends will do, is essentially take the things that you're telling them and utilize them in sort of a form of attack after you've become vulnerable and opened yourself up to that other individual. So why it's so important that if people put their trust in you, that you guard that information that they're giving to you in their most vulnerable state, is because, again, that's part of unconditionally loving somebody. That's part of creating a safe place and space for them to exist within. And remember that nobody can truly heal and give themselves all, or give you all of themselves. So I had to move a little bit because I'm in a busy resort and it's a little bit difficult for me to film. So there are a lot of people around. But back to, starting with my original point about interpersonal relationships, whether it's a couple relationship or friendships or family dynamics, anytime that another individual is sharing their heart and their soul with you and becoming or putting themselves in a very vulnerable state, it's extremely important that you don't utilize that information or weaponize that information. So I'm going to give a few examples of this, okay? So, for example, in a friendship, okay, whether the friendship is a long-term friendship or a fairly new friendship, when you are building trust with somebody, when you're sharing intimate details about your life, about, the things that make you who you are, and also sometimes this is the pain that you've gone through, the suffering that you've gone through, the difficult times, the instances maybe where you were not in your best form. These are all aspects of creating a bond with another person and really showing all of yourself to that person. But unfortunately, what often happens is that people will utilize what you are saying and telling them about yourself against you. Now, sometimes this comes from insecurity on their part. So, human beings have this tendency to one-up one another or make themselves appear better than the other. We've grown up in a society where everything is always kind of pivoting on competition. So sometimes people will utilize the things that you tell them to, again, make themselves appear, better or more organized or, of better character. And so it's really important that when you're creating these friendships and this trust, that you never weaponize what another person tells you in confidence, and also that you don't tell others the information that a friend is sharing with you. That's a hallmark of a really good friendship, is somebody that can hold confidence, can hold space for you, and can be there for you. And this is important in family relationships and friendships. Oftentimes it's difficult with families because families feel like they need to get involved in the other family members' lives and share things that maybe they shouldn't share. They don't hold confidence because they feel that they may know a better way or another path or a better path for their family member. But this is often very wrong and can lead to a lot of, family issues. So it doesn't matter who you're dealing with. whether you're dealing with a friend or a family member, really remember that if that individual is coming to you in confidence or sharing something that is extremely vulnerable and difficult for them, that part of creating that deep friendship is really honoring what they're telling you, really never using it as a piece of information to attack them, attack their character, put them down in any way, or again, share information that really has been given to you in confidence. So this is something that I feel is a really integral part of creating exceptionally dynamic connections and friendships within, anybody's life. Now, when it comes to, partnerships, spousal relationships, again, this is one that's really difficult because, unfortunately, a lot of times this is what partners will do to each other. They'll take information or they'll take circumstances and they will utilize it to, try to scold the other person or put the other person down. They take those very intimate moments where that individual is really at their most vulnerable, and again, using it in kind of a weaponized fashion. Sometimes this is done to exert control over another person. Sometimes this is done out of insecurity. If your mate feels like they can put you in a vulnerable position, they may have more control over, you mentally if you don't feel strong about who you are. But remember, in a truly loving partnership, this kind of childish behavior or unawakened behavior is not going to elicit the most beautiful journey in your love story. So you really have to watch your own behavior. You have to watch how you're treating that other person. And if you start, seeing yourself or experiencing yourself playing these kind of games where, again, you are attacking that other person, to which you are supposed to be their safe space. Now, I'm not suggesting that if somebody is, really not honoring the relationship, if we're looking at, a couple relationship, if they are going outside of, the contract of basically what you set aside, if it's a monogamous relationship, if they are, doing drugs, or if they're somehow hurting you or not being a good partner. I mean, you have to bring those things up, but there's a way to bring them up that is, very mature and very kind, and really the correct way to do this, depending on what stage, you're at in, a couple's relationship. If it's really in the beginning of a relationship, then again, it's part of setting down the standards and making it very clear what you can tolerate within your environment. It doesn't mean that what that person's doing is completely wrong in all relationships. There might be relationships out there where another individual will be totally fine with that behavior, but coming at any discussion with a very mature attitude and just really clearly stating what is comfortable for you, without games, without sarcasm, without manipulations, is 100% the best way to create a strong relationship dynamic. And it also saves you a lot of time if for some reason, but it's all about communication. It's all about, having a solid understanding of what makes you comfortable and what is tolerable, for you to accept within a relationship. And really remembering that, again, if somebody's coming to you, it doesn't matter what the situation, if they have some sort of addiction, if they have some sort of, a mental illness, or they feel like they're lacking or insecure in some way, not using that against them in a negative way. Even if you are in, again, a relationship and that person brings something to you that just is a deal breaker, doesn't mean you have to destroy that person, doesn't mean that you have to make them feel shameful. You can simply have a discussion with them saying, I don't see you as a life partner for me due to these reasons. That doesn't mean I can't support you as a friend. This is the crossroads where I now know, due to these things, that I can't experience, a long-term couple relationship with you. But essentially, as a mature adult communicating, properly, I can help you. And being in any relationship truly is about honesty, whether it's a friendship or a couple's relationship or a family dynamic. It's about being honest with the individuals around you. When you're living authentically, when you are showing up and expressing your own individual needs, and then again, honoring those boundaries. It's really important that you honor those boundaries. You can set those standards, but if you don't hold to the boundaries and the expectations that you need to create to, again, create this peacefulness in your own life, well, then it's a lot of talk and, no action in terms of you setting yourself up for, a great experience in terms of life. And that, that's going to mean setting limits about how much time that you'll give others. You're going to have friends, families can be really bad for this in terms of really expecting that you give them a certain amount of time, or you show up to a certain amount of events or activities or whatever it is. And there's a certain time where you have to say, no, I'm here to live my own life, and I love you guys as family, but hey, you know what? If I end up seeing you 4 times a year and that's what I can manage right now because I've got a whole lot of other stuff going on, that's where I'm at right now in this season of my life. And you're going to have to accept that about me. That doesn't change my love for you. It doesn't change, my caring for you. If something really serious is going on, I'll be there for you. But these are my boundaries right now. Same thing with friendships. A lot of times you'll have friendships or friend groups that will make you feel extremely guilty about not showing up or not doing things that maybe you would have done with them all throughout high school or whatever it is. As you change through the seasons of your life, anytime that anyone, spouses included, spouses can be very bad for this by, turning on the guilt. You need to give me this. You need to be here for me at this time. All of those types of relationships that are heavily laden with guilt they're not the optimal expression of a human interpersonal relationship. Relationships, when they're really good, they're effortless. If you don't see that friend for a year and you just pick right back up because they're not stressing, they're not imposing stress on you, they're not imposing guilt on you. And you know what? Maybe you end up hanging out with them 5 times a week because, again, you're working on a project together. I think it's the expectation that creates the pressure. And when we can completely let go of those expectations and that mechanism of guilt that we project onto others, this is where we start to cross the precipice into really healthy relationship dynamics and really beautiful relationships that just become effortless, and they have the potential to be lifelong relationships because they require no effort. They're not taking any energy away from the other. They're simply always holding space for that other individual, however they can show up for the relationship. Now, some people will argue with me on this point, and they'll say, no, if you're in a family, you need to do, this, and that. If you are a spouse, you need to do this, and that. And I'm not in complete disagreement with that. What I'm saying is that each individual in the partnership or in the family dynamic need to be heard, and they need to set out what their parameters for comfortable interaction and communication are. And if those parameters are broken, then there are consequences to that. And usually the consequence should just be, I'm pulling away. I'm now changing the dynamic of the relationship. So maybe we aren't in a monogamous relationship anymore, or in a parent relationship or family relationship. I'm going to be moving out of the house. I'm going to be doing this season of my life, whatever it is. There's always things that are going to be in change. There's always things that are going to be in flux, and that is part of growth and growing and understanding. I'm going to cut this video a little bit short because it's a little bit difficult to film here with a bunch of people walking around. But just to summarize, couple key things that I wanted to point out about relationships and building the best communication in relationships that you possibly can. So first of all, when, holding space for all individuals in your life, if they're going to tell you something and go into a space of vulnerability with you, whether this is a friendship, a family member, or a spouse, not utilizing the things that they are saying against them at a later date. It's really important that if they're coming to you in an open-hearted way, that you really honor that and protect the information that they're giving you. And that really makes you a beautiful friend, a really trustworthy family member, or an amazing spouse. Okay. And if what they're coming to you with, means that you have to set a plan in place to help them, then you do that with them, in conjunction with them to set that plan of action into motion. And if it's something where you have to step away because, again, there are certain boundaries that have been crossed, then you do that, but you do it maturely and you do it in a very kind, compassionate way. Never attacking them, never belittling them, never making them feel smaller or unworthy. Okay. And then the second thing that is, extremely important is not utilizing the mechanism of guilt. So when you're interacting with others, not trying to be manipulative. This is extremely important for creating really solid relationships, is allowing that other person to be who they are. It may not match exactly the vision you want in terms of what you want from them in your life. Maybe it's because you want to date this person and they don't want to date you, or maybe it's because, you're a father or mother and you have a certain expectation of what your child should do. Okay. But you have to understand that's, maybe what you want, but any type of interpersonal relationship takes two people, and they're two individuals that have completely unique needs. And so when you're dealing with others, don't manipulate them. Don't use guilt to try to, push your weight around or cause them to do or be something that they are not ready to be or that they don't want to be, which again, I'm talking about the highest level of interpersonal relationships in terms of, what you can cultivate while you're here on planet Earth. Just really taking the time to understand those around you and setting boundaries. Okay, so what I mean by understand who they are, ask questions, really, dive deep into the people that are in your life. The more that you understand about the other, the better friend, spouse, family member you're going to be capable of being. And then again, really guard your own energy, set your own boundaries, be very clear what those boundaries are, and then hold to them. If somebody is acting outside of the boundaries you've set for what is okay in terms of the treatment that you are willing to receive, then you have to be willing to put those consequences in place. And a lot of times that is going to mean walking away or setting boundaries or creating distance, which can be hard for a lot of people, but it's actually that tough love that in the end creates the most authentic relationships and probably the best communication in terms of your interpersonal relationships. I'm going to sign off, and I may or may not make more videos while I'm here on vacation. It's just hard to find time, but have a fabulous week, and we will see you in the next video.